Welcome, everyone. This is Work Made Human, and I'm Nicole Mendez, Director of Talent Acquisition at BAM.
And I'm Jill Vaglin, Head of People at BAM. With us today, coming from New York, is Radhika Duggal, CMO of Major League Soccer. Welcome, Radhika.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We're so excited to be able to chat with you today. To kick things off, as a PR agency, of course, or communications agency, storytelling is just foundational to everything we do here at BAM. I know you probably feel the same way within your marketing journey. And Major Soccer League is a major brand focused on the art of the game and really deepening connections with fans. So tell us more. What story are you hoping to essentially be telling with your team and your role throughout your journey?
We're equally passionate about storytelling here at Major League Soccer. About 2 years ago, we did some work to really dig into what exactly does our brand stand for and what are the stories we should be telling. And we learned so much from that exercise. So from that, we learned we got to be telling the stories that make fans fall in love with our league. And we landed in a couple of places. First and foremost, we have to be pounding the table and telling the story about how much fun Major League Soccer is. When you watch MLS, you are on the edge of your seat, experiencing every emotion and just having fun. People choose us as a way to spend their free time. And we are hands down one of the most entertaining sporting products out there. I don't know if either of you have made it out to a match or have watched us on broadcast. If you have, I highly recommend it. It's fun. So that is story number one, narrative number one, and we want to be screaming that from the rooftops. The second thing we want to really be talking about is how incredible our players are and the positive, high-quality soccer that we bring every weekend, every match day. The player stories are so important because the players are our product and people fall in love with other humans and human stories, and our players have some incredible stories and backgrounds and families. The quality story is equally important and part of this, and so wrapped up in the player story. We know that when consumers hear how many incredible players we have, high quality soccer players that, for example, play in the World Cup, they start to realize MLS quality of play is on par with the best leagues in the world. So that's kind of the second story is we have incredible players who play high quality soccer. And the third, soccer excitement, it's at its peak. In North America, the World Cup's going to be on our home soil this year, and we are going to spend every day of this year talking about the reality that the World Cup is here for just a short time period, but MLS is here almost the full year. From February to October is our regular season, and October to December are the playoffs. We are here every year, all year, playing that same soccer that you see in the World Cup. And so those are our primary stories. MLS is fun. Our players have incredible stories and we play high quality soccer. And if you're excited about the World Cup, we bring you that World Cup excitement all year, every year.
I instantly, by the way, thought I'm half Ecuadorian and my father just, I think all of Latin America, maybe besides the Caribbean, are, seeing their teams up there are just diehard. So right, what you said, it's twofold. It's the passion behind the fan, but then also the human, right, and the story behind the player. So it's just as you were saying that, I instantly flashed back to being a kid and like hearing the goal and the screaming in the living room. So
yeah.
I love that you just mentioned fun so many times because that is something I wanted to touch on about your role. So you led with fun, and you have said before that this role is about marketing joy, fun, and escape. You'd mentioned that in a Marketing Brew article. So obviously, I would imagine this role can get intense and things are high pressure. This is high quality soccer. The stakes are high. How do you help your team stay connected to those feelings of joy, fun, and escapism?
So one thing I really have respected and admired, and one of the reasons I chose to come work here is because I think our team members are so innately in love with our product that joy and that fun, they feel it every day when they're at a match, covering a match. But your point is right. Like, a job is still a job. And I'm very cognizant of that. And all jobs, as you all know, have things that are like, it's not so fun every day. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there are a couple of things that leaders can do and that I try to do quite aggressively to make sure that we are always going back to not only the fun and joy, but the gratitude that I feel as a leader to get to be on their team. And I chose those words very intentional. The gratitude I feel to get to be on their team and not the other way around. So a couple of things. First and foremost, I think what really mitigates like undue pressure and extra intensity for a marketer is autonomy and trust. My job is to hire really freaking great people and get out of their way. That's not always reasonable in every work environment because we have layers and layers and reviews and all these things. But I see that as the job. My job is to figure out how to cut all that stuff away, find the best person for the job, and trust that they're going to do it. I think that actually helps to mitigate some of the pressure and things. The second thing is to make sure that I am championing the work of the folks on my team internally as much as possible, sharing their great work in rooms that they're not in, making sure that our leaders can connect that cool piece of creative or that incredible digital marketing journey with the name of the person that did it, whether that person is a vice president or that person is a coordinator. I think it's really important for our leaders to know the names of the people that do the incredible work that power our league. And the third thing I'll say is, I try really hard to show up with gratitude every day for our team. For me, some of that is systematic and built into routine. So every Thursday, I have an alert for myself to say thank you to the team on Slack. And I pick out a couple of people who've done 10 amazing things for me that week and call them out by name and say thank you for doing this. And we've created this culture where everyone else on the team piles on. And it just, at the end of the long week, there's nothing I enjoy more than looking through that Slack channel and reading about how we all showed up for each other that week. So I think you're right. Like, this is the business of fun, but sometimes it's hard and it's intense.
Yeah.
But I think trying to mitigate that pressure by getting out of the way, trying to make sure that others know who is doing the work, and trying to just have gratitude can help a little bit with that.
Beautiful. I mean, that level of acknowledgement for your team in itself is huge, but then also really prioritizing trust, which is our theme. Our every year we choose a word of the year, a theme for our company, and it's trust. It's building self-trust. So trust within yourself, organizational trust, leadership trust. That goes such a long way. So I just love hearing you talk about how that's a priority. And one other thing I want to ask, you've come from outside the sports world. So I would imagine you had all these like ideas or preconceived notions about what this role would be like. What surprised you most about the human side of MLS once you were inside?
I'd say a couple of things. First and foremost, the passion that our team members feel for our product and our sport and our leagues and our clubs and our players. I've never worked somewhere where that passion is so evident 7 days a week. We've got people who travel across the country to cover matches for social, for editorial, for other functions. That's dedication and passion you just don't see in other industries. Another thing is, outside of our team at the league office, I totally didn't bargain for this, but I have the absolute pleasure of working with 30 club CMOs who are smart, passionate marketers, who are incredible storytellers, who built their brands often from scratch. And I think that is just such an incredible bonus. And then the last thing I'll say that really surprised me is, our product is our people, right? Our product is literally the people that play soccer on a pitch. Yeah. And that's not a transactional product, right? It's not like marketing a checking account or marketing medication, which had been some of my prior experiences. This job is exactly where we started this conversation. It's about telling the stories of those incredible people who train and who have families and who show up every day to make a fun and entertaining product for all of us. And I just think the passion is unmatched. The bonus of getting 30 incredible CMOs to slowly build relationships with, and hopefully over time call my friends, and just the idea that our product is people and those people have wonderful, amazing stories was all so surprising to me.
I bet. Yeah. Passion, ambition, and people. So those are three pretty powerful things to be able to say about your job. I don't know that many people can, that those are right there every day.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Super
that.
lucky.
Yeah.
I know that, and I recognize that every day.
Yeah.
Speaking of people or more people, I know that you recently kicked off, correct me if I'm wrong, Consumer Behavior Executive MBA class at
Yeah.
NYU. Okay. And you mentioned recently on LinkedIn how it's a privilege to learn with thoughtful students, right?
Yeah.
What do students help you understand that senior leadership rooms sometimes missed, and how has that translated to how you're now showing up in the workplace?
Yeah, I will say like what a privilege it is to get to teach at NYU. I went to NYU for undergrad, so I moved to New York when I was 17 years old, and I get to teach in the building that I literally used to learn at. And such a crazy, every Friday and Saturday when I walk in the door, I'm very cognizant of the fact that they let me in and they let me do this, and I'm grateful. But I think there's a couple of things that are distinct and unique about learning from that kind of classroom experience. I teach executive MBAs, so they are oftentimes my age or older, meaning they have more work experience sometimes than I do. And they are a diverse group. So we've got about 35 folks in the class this year. And the thing that's really unique in that room that is maybe different from a room of execs is those 35 people, they come from different industries. They're solving different problems. They have more diverse experiences than perhaps an executive team of, I'm making it up, 8 to 10 in any one company that's focused on sort of the same kinds of challenges or maybe has been in the industry for a long time. I find that diversity of thought, that diversity of problem solving actually really attractive. That's where creativity is born, right? When you have different voices and different thinking. And I think, listen, I'm really lucky to be in that room a couple of times a month and have access to that many smart people, execs in their own right. So that's one thing. It's just diversity of thinking, I think, is really different when you're not focused on talking to everybody solving the same challenges in the same company in the same industry. And I think the other thing I'll say is, depending on the organization you're in, and I've worked in lots of different kinds of companies, it may just be that the people in the classroom might actually be your target customer. And maybe your executive team isn't. So for example, I used to work at a student lender. And the student lender, literally the people in the classroom were my customer. Whereas our exec team, like we'd all graduated many years ago and we were not our customer. So I think that's also, depending on where you work and who your customer is, that also happened to have been advantageous a couple of times in my career as well. But it's really harkening back to that. There's so much diversity of thought in a classroom. It's such a safe space, and it's such a nice way to learn.
You also recently touched on, and I'm sure this has come up in the classroom as well, own your experience with pride, right? And ask for what you think you deserve, which, I mean, round of applause. It sounds real. It is really simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy, of course, and it's often just uncomfortable. So what advice do you have for leaders in the workplace or students in the classroom who want to create space for others to advocate for themselves?
I will say my dad is the person that taught me that lesson. And, it's just so simple, right? If you don't ask, you don't get. He used to tell me. But it's really hard. Like even in my real life, when we go out to eat, my daughter's 5, we're trying to get her to order her food in the restaurant instead of relying on myself or my husband to talk to the waiter. We want to teach her early. You have to ask for what you want. You have to use your voice. And I think that the same is true in a work environment. And so I think when it comes to advocating for yourself, you just have to do it, and it's uncomfortable. But when it comes to making space to advocating for others, I think as leadership, we first have to take responsibility to really sit and listen when someone is coming to us to have the uncomfortable conversation. You can't be on your phone. You can't be multitasking. You can't be daydreaming. Like that is the one meeting, of all the meetings, the meeting where someone comes and they're trying to advocate for themselves and they're trying to do something that you know is uncomfortable for them. That is the time to be present with 100% of your attention. And sometimes though, even though you're so proud that they took that step to do that really hard thing, you may not be able to deliver on what they're asking for. And the thing I never want to do is discourage the asking. So as a leader, some of the things I do when people are in those moments is over communicate how thankful I am that they trusted me to ask for whatever it is they were asking for in the moment. Acknowledge that it is so hard to have these conversations, and always follow up and close the loop. Even if I don't have the answer they want or expect, having the courage to follow up and close the loop and say, I'm sorry, I tried. Here's where we landed. Or great news, I tried and here's where we landed. Like either is fine. But I think just making sure you acknowledge that the hard conversations are hard. You have gratitude that they trusted you to be the person to have the conversation with. And you always show up and close the loop. I think that's how you start to perpetuate a cycle of teaching people asking is the right thing. Even if the outcome isn't what you want, you always ask.
Yeah. And it reminds me, Jill, the conversation. I mean, it was a different conversation, but parallel in a lot of ways where sometimes it's just making room for other folks to just do something, even if you can do it faster or done in a different way. And it boils down to exactly that trust, right? And people feel that. So.
Yeah. One of the real-time ways, just as you were talking, Radhika, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool to hear you say this. One of the real-time ways we do that at BAM is, Nichole is the director of talent acquisition. I'm head of people. So once the offer's been sent, I discuss offers with people, and we're PR, it's largely women, and traditionally just women are not as comfortable taking up space and asking. So anytime a woman counters the offer, whether or not we can match it, exactly what you just said. I praise, I say, I am so glad. I am so impressed. Do not ever shy away from countering in this way. We may not be able to do it, but I'm gonna see what we can do. And I really want to acknowledge you for asking, because that's scary. And so that the acknowledgement piece and affirming their decision, this scary decision, is so important of that. And you are someone who is so clearly aligned with your values. The way you speak, you hear it. I mean, you have repeated gratitude repeatedly. So that sounds to me like a very top value of yours. Why is that important to you as a leader in the workplace?
I think there's like a lot of things. First, it just feels like the right thing to do. Like at the highest level, that's how I want to be treated. I want people to acknowledge if I'm doing the right thing, or by the way, I want the feedback if I'm doing the wrong thing. But more specifically, my feeling is in a high performing, high pressure environment, it's super easy for work to become really transactional. Like I shoot off a Slack message asking for this information. I shoot off another one. And by the way, I totally do that. I am guilty of that. I'm running between meetings. I have a lot of questions for a lot of people. But that's a really transactional way of showing up. Carving out time to have gratitude means that I'm able to overcome some of that. I know that we are in a transactional situation to some degree, but if you have time to be gracious, if you spend time getting to know people, that helps you to overcome that a little bit. Secondly, I think gratitude signals respect and humility. And when people feel appreciated, I believe they do better work. They're more likely to speak up. They're more likely to take creative risks. They're more likely to feel supported. And we work in a creative discipline. We need people to feel comfortable taking those risks. Yeah. And then I think lastly, it's just contagious. Like I want to work as I mentioned, I want to work somewhere where I feel that gratitude, but I think gratitude is modeled and behavior is modeled at the top. So if I start, I try, I don't always succeed. I try to start that Thursday every morning with my thank yous, and we put them in Slack now. We used to handwrite them and put them on a wall. I try to model that because I think then people pile on, and I think it's really important. So I think it makes work not transactional. It makes people feel safe so they can take risk, and it's contagious to some degree. That's one thing that's really important to me.
And it is contagious from the top down and back up. So you've been in marketing throughout your career, and marketing is in so many ways really just trying to understand humans. What responsibility do marketing leaders have for how work feels inside the organization, regardless of what level they're at? And maybe where's there more opportunity for folks?
I think inside the organization, it's about the brand. A marketer's duty is to make sure that the work carries forward the organization's brand. And that brand is hopefully something that's been well thought through, well researched, and aligned upon internally. After that alignment, my feeling is the marketer's real job, with the brand as guardrails and the brand as sort of the starting point, it's a duty to the consumer that you show up in a way that reflects what the consumer needs, whether it's a marketer making creative or advertising, whether it's a marketer thinking about the channel strategy and how it connects with other channels throughout the ecosystem, or whether it's a digital product person that's making literal digital products and saying, like, is my app, does it actually meet the consumer needs? My feeling is marketing is meant to be a reflection of the brand. The brand is an aligned upon thing that the organization needs to care about. But once you have those guardrails, the discipline is for the consumer and is making sure we show up for the consumer in the best way possible.
I know we're almost at time. 2 questions, if we could squeeze them in. If throughout your career journey, looking back, if you could tell every leader listening just one story from your journey, maybe a story that shares more about your experiences, that makes them rethink how they would show up at workplace, which story would you choose and why?
This is hard. I had a moment working for another employer, which I will not share the name of. And I had the opportunity to apply for a role on another team, and it was a promotion. And just like you always do, you ask your boss, for permission to apply. Are they supportive? And that person said yes. And I interviewed and I got the job. And when I went to my boss to share the good news, they said, I actually think you're more valuable in this role. I don't think you can take that job. And I said, oh, that means I'm getting the promotion and I'm getting the raise that comes with the promotion in this role. Okay, I was a little disappointed, but that's okay too. And they said, oh no, we don't have that elevated headcount. We don't have the raise that comes with it. You are more valuable in this role, so you got to stay in this role. And when I asked, well, why did you then support my candidacy to go on that journey to interview in the first place? Their response is they didn't think I would get the job, point blank. And wow, I've never heard anything more demoralizing. Wow. And I would just say, listen, always be honest with your team members and always put supporting them first. Our careers are really long and the world is really, really small. That person called about 3 months later and asked for a favor from me. You can imagine how inclined I was to do that. But I just think that there's something about you always put your team members first. And if you do that, you're better served over the lifespan of your career and quite frankly of your life. That's one of the experiences that really taught me you got to put people first, because it feels really terrible when you're put second to something. And by the way, I left the company about 3 months later. So I was so valuable. That wasn't a good retention tactic.
Nope.
And I know we're brought up with the, what is it? Sticks and stones may break my bone. Words. Yeah.
I think words hurt. I don't know if I can describe it.
They do. Words matter a lot. Yeah. I actually feel like this was just kind of the perfect place to wrap it up. The message here of putting people first for the purpose of our podcast, Work Made Human, putting people first is so poignant. And Radhika, it's just been lovely getting to have you here today with us on Work Made Human. You are the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Major League Soccer. And we do actually have one final question. And if you don't want to answer it, or if it doesn't make sense because we didn't put it on the list, it's just what gives you hope about the future of work?
Oh my God, everything. As someone who works in soccer, and it's most exciting year in North America, I come to work every day just excited for the day and the next day and the day after that. So I'll say that's one thing. The other thing I'll say is I have a 5-year-old, and I was chatting with a friend on my way to work because my social life is from 7:15 to 7:45 in the morning every day as I walk to work. And she was telling me about all her daughter, who's 23 roughly, had accomplished. And I was just thinking about, wow, how cool is it going to be that I get to build or be a part of building the future that my daughter is going to participate in. I just think there's something there's so much hope in the world and so many positive experiences, and we get to create them all. So I'm psyched about it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's a wrap. We've really enjoyed this.
Amazing. It was so nice to meet you both.